Wake up, wake up. It is March the 7th, 2025. Why is this a momentous day? We're going to tell you in 30 seconds. Let's go. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, wake up.
Welcome. Like and subscribe. It is great to have you here. We got Joey Bosa now out on these free agent streets. We're going to talk about that. We got Brock Purdy negotiations, opening salvos, news from across the league that either affects the Niners or affect the year that the Niners are going to have. We got a lot to get into this Friday. So, Larry, welcome back. I hope your trip to Arizona was fantastic. I hope you and all the boys got tan lines and good times at the ballpark and had a great time in Scottsdale. So, welcome back, man. Good to see you.
Great to be back. It was great to be in Scottsdale, take in a few games, golf a little bit, and get a little sun. And I really enjoyed it. And thanks to our two sponsors that made it possible, Claw Daddy Arcades. They've got an arcade coming here in Northern California. You can follow them on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades and find the location near you. He's got multiple arcades. And then, of course, our good friends at LearnKey Upskill Academy. The entire month on our channel is brought to you by LearnKey Upskill Academy. They're an online learning platform, Damon, designed to get people job ready in 6 months or less, whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or any other high demand field. They offer over 30 certification programs to help you take your next step in your professional career. They've been in business for 38 years. They have over 200,000 students, and they're placing over 100 graduates every year in well-paid jobs. So LearnKey Upskill Academy, great business. Both links are in the description. And of course, we are always brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California, thanks to our friends at Pig and a Pickle. Okay. And of course, let's not forget, since we're last but certainly not least, Sharp Corners, sports cards and collectibles. Big sponsors over here on the Krug Show. Thanks to Anthony Catania down there in Pacific Grove. You can reach him at 831-521-5264.
I like sports and collectibles. I like barbecue. I like educational opportunities to advance careers. And what was your other thing there that I like?
You like sports car, arcades. You're a big fan of Claw Daddy Arcades. Who doesn't like an arcade?
Buried the lead. I love a good arcade. I also love Ike Sandwiches, who, of course, makes the plus possible. Get yourself to Ike's this afternoon, this weekend, for a sandwich that's going to be right up your alley. It is good to have you back here, Larry. Again, I'm glad you had a good trip. We got some things that we just got to hop right into, but you said that today, March 7th, is a big, big day. Now,
big day.
It's funny that you say that because I look at March 7th as kind of a big day in my life, too. It's my 2-year anniversary of being laid off by 95.7 The Game. Today is my 2-year anniversary, so that's why it's a big day for me. How about you?
Well, today is a big day because 22 years ago today, I was lucky enough at John Muir Hospital to welcome my first son to the world, Kevin Krueger, and today is his birthday. So happy birthday, Kev.
Oh, geez.
We love you, brother. And what you've contributed to the channel is immense. And what you've contributed to my life is even more immense than that. So thank you. And here's to many, many more. Mom and I are very proud.
Hey, so is Uncle Damon. I love Kevin. He's such a good kid, man. Again, if human beings were stocks, I would buy an awful lot of Kevin Krueger stock, and I would just hold it. Like, I know that 30 years from now, this is going to pay a huge return on investment. Not even going to take that long. Let's be honest. Kevin's a great kid. So happy birthday, Kevin. And thanks to all of your help that you've given me throughout the years over here on this channel. Nothing but love for Kev. Happy birthday. What is he, 23 today? 22?
23.
Wow.
He was born in 2002. And here we are. It's 2025, March 7th, 2025. And he's 23 years old.
Well, that's awesome. I'm sure you're celebrating Amy, his brothers, his sister. You know, I've got a couple of boys now, and there's something special about brothers. And I guess that brings us right to our main topic here today, Larry, which is Joey Bosa is now out on these streets. And look, he will have other teams interested in his services. I think there's only one path to this getting done with the 49ers. And it's something that the 49ers should A, explore, B, approach a little cautiously. We all know about Joey Bosa's injury history, which has caused him to miss 23 games over the last 3 seasons. And again, you know, you're saying, all right, well, you're going to pair him with his brother. That's going to be the best teammate. Well, he's been playing with Khalil Mack, and it's still not enough to take the pressure off of him to have him really produce like he did at the beginning of his career. Joey Bosa's zenith of his career was so early in it. Everyone forgets how good he was right away. I mean, he was an incredible burst on the scene, rookie of the year. He's still got an awful lot of talent, but he's got to be willing to give that massive friends and family in order to be here. As a matter of fact, it is not even the 49ers' job to add Joey Bosa. It's Joey Bosa's job to add himself to the 49ers if this is really where he wants to be. If he wants the most money, this ain't it. If he wants to play for a contender, yeah, I think this is it. There's only
I mean, you know,
allow you
it's there.
Want to play with your brother. That's it. Joey Bosa has to make the Niners an offer they can't refuse, not the other way around.
I mean, it doesn't fit. He doesn't fit with where the Niners are going. It just doesn't fit. I mean, it's like the Niners want to get younger, cheaper, and healthier, and you're going to go for Joey Bosa, who's older, more expensive, and more broken down.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't jive. Now, if you know he wants to cut the Niners some significant hometown discount and play for a fraction of what he's played for up to this point, I mean, that would go so against the kind of the Bosa way. They always, hold out for top dollar, and I'm sure they believe strongly in it. But this guy's made $150 million. He has no ring. There's an old saying. My dad used to say it sometimes to me. He'd be like, you know what? Life and sometimes calls your bluff. So if you walk around for 20 years going, man, it would be really cool if the two of you guys could play together. And if every time anybody ever said that to you or Cheryl Bosa or Nick Bosa or John Bosa or any of the Bosas, if they all just went, that would be amazing. Well, guess what? Life's calling your bluff. If you want to play together, there's an avenue here to play together. You're either going to take that avenue or you're not. But that avenue is not going to also include, double, the 10 million plus salary a year, and big time money. I would say if I could get Nick, I was saying 2 years under like 2 years, 25 million, but even that's like a little
Larry,
pricey.
so I put a number here too. I said 2 years, 16 million, 9 guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, a 1 year prove it deal might be the best way to go. 1 year, $8 million, all of it guaranteed, something like that. Something under 10 would be nice if they could get him for under 10. Now he's good against the run still. He had the 18th best defensive end Pro Football Focus run grade. So he's pretty good against the run. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he's a bigger bodied guy that would help him against the run. God knows they're going to need, according to Mayoko, they're going to maybe, offload both Leonard Floyd and Yatir Gross-Matos as cap casualties. Well, that takes a defensive line that's already thin and makes it enormously thin. So anybody sounds pretty good coming in. I like the idea that the Bosas will play well off each other. I think they'll motivate each other, but once again, it's like it has to be at the Niners price or it's not worth doing.
Joey Bosa has to want to be on the 49ers more than the Niners should want Joey Bosa to be on the 49ers. And he's got to show that and reflect that in the deal that he's willing to take. And as he walks into Parag's office to ever even talk about this, he needs Nick with him, and Nick putting his contract right on Parag's desk and say, here's where you find your money. Restructure this. Take it from me to give to him. We do want to play. This is literally brothers want to be on the same team. That's the only place that this gets done. That's the only universe in which this could happen. And even if it does, again, Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa, both healthy, both playing together. Who wouldn't be interested in seeing that? We know that the 49ers would love to sell that. The Bosas might even come and, rent a place in Los Gatos to come on out here and watch their boys playing on the same team for the first time since St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida. I mean, these guys were at Ohio State together, but because of injuries and whatever, their playing days never really overlapped. This would be an opportunity for a very special La Familia Bosa to emerge here. And unless Joey's willing to leave a lot of money on the table to come here, again, you can probably get more money than the Niners are willing to offer. You can probably attach yourself to a contender, which the Niners also, I think, will be again. But there's only one team on the planet that allows you to come play with your baby brother. So how much do you really want that, Joey? And like you said, the universe has just called the bluff. Larry, let's find out. It probably doesn't happen.
Oh, it's funny you said that because Mayoko's like, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen.
Well,
that's how strong he was with it.
It's up to Joey. It's up to Joey to make this happen, not the Niners.
Well, obviously, the Niners are not going to offer a fading veteran, the kind who's made a ton of money. They're not going to offer him a deal that's commensurate with what he's made. But it doesn't mean they won't make the highest offer because we don't know how the other teams view Joey Bosa. There's talk that maybe the Rams are interested. We'll see. But I mean, I mean, it's a nice thing. I wouldn't make it a priority if he wants to. If he wants to do this, then you know what? Maybe it makes sense. But it would have to be at a significant discount. I mean, and here's the thing: it sounds like Jed has ripped away the contract negotiation duties from Lynch and Shanahan in the aftermath of the Ayuk, saga or whatever you want to call it. Is his contract, Bosa's contract, Debo's contract. It sounds like Parag, who's Jed's good buddy, who's, considered to be a little bit more ruthless, that he'll be handling the Purdy negotiations. And who knows, maybe he's handling all of the 49ers big ticket item free agent negotiations. But look for the Niners who feel like they got ripped off in the Debo deal, the Ayuk deal, and the Bosa deal to try to do a belt tightening through Parag's ruthless negotiation. And that could be a really, really painful thing to endure because that could mean that they're going to play super hardball with Purdy. We'll get into that. And that means that they may have to go in a different direction at quarterback if Purdy and his side decide they're going to be dug in. The Niners have leverage here, but we'll see how this goes. It sounds like it's a new world order in Niner land that Jed's tired of getting taken for a ride financially. He's brought in Parag to handle all the heavy lifting contract-wise, and we'll see what the impact of that is on the team.
Yeah, new article by Mike Silver in The Athletic, which came out this morning, not even 20 minutes before we popped on air here. It's the, Jed York will be more ruthless and will not let coaches' emotions or cry of we're all in, dictate what he thinks are smart financial decisions. And like you said, it does feel like all of this is rippling off of what a disappointment Brandon Ayuk's contract instantly became. All I'm going to tell you is that if, uber ruthless Jed York is really the new way of doing business, well, then that should clear up what is about to happen with Brock Purdy faster than anything. Have him come back on his final year and then franchise him a year after. I mean, if you really want to here's the thing. If you're going to claim to be new sheriff in town and you're going to, wear a black hat because you're the bad guy into all negotiations, well, then you just solved the Brock Purdy situation as fast as anyone, right? I mean, they do not have to give him a massive extension right now. And they do not have to give him anything but a franchise the following year. I mean, he's not going anywhere if they don't want him to. So
it does seem kind of odd, though. I mean, they've literally stumbled over themselves all off season. He's our guy. He's our guy. He's our guy. Maybe Parag is taking over the negotiations as Jed's afraid that they won't be able to get a favorable deal. If he doesn't, that John and Kyle maybe are too close to the players and too close. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process is, but obviously a belt tightening means, it seems like it's really, really bad timing to have like a belt tightening as you're trying to figure out exactly where you want to pay your starting quarterback if you don't want to piss away the year. I mean,
or
the Eagles get their contracts done on time. I mean,
right.
Have you noticed that? All their contracts get done on time. The Niner contracts can never get done on time. So it's like, I don't care who's running the thing, but if Jed saves the money he wants to save, but Brock doesn't get signed till, late August, they're fools.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree with that too. Look, I also think that, okay, so if we were putting all of our NFL media members, certainly guys that you and I actually know, Larry, like would see us and identify us without reading our credentials. They know who we are. I would put Mike Silver right on the top shelf liquor part of the bar. He is very good at what he does. Mike Silver is connected, and at no point in time would I ever position Mike as a useful idiot for NFL teams. Does he take messages from front offices and make them public? Yes, but I don't think Mike is being used as some useful idiot. However, there is absolutely, to me, no coincidence at all here that as the Brock negotiations are happening in public for the very first time, that this comes out, right? Like you said, the timing is just weird on all this. Why would you start saber rattling about your, how tough you're going to be on everybody contractually while you are slipping into the biggest contractual period of the entire year? So it feels like there is some motivation to have this out here. And I don't know if we're being set up for, good news, bad news, or whatever. Like I told you, John Lynch was talking so glowingly about Dre Greenlaw at the combine. The little bell that went off in my mind was, he's setting everybody up for him not coming back. He's setting everybody up for Dre is so good at what he does. There will be so many teams interested in him that we're not going to be able to afford to bring him back because he's going to have the 3-year bigger than we can give him deal waiting for him somewhere else. Like that's the way I felt about it. Just me personally, just my hunch. And it seems more and more like they're getting further away from Dre Greenlaw's return than closer to it actually happening. So, interesting times all around the 49ers for sure. And I mean, where do you want to go from here? Do you want to talk about,
well, let's talk about Greenlaw for a second. You just brought him up. The Commanders are signing Bobby Wagner, who I think is a very good Greenlaw comp. Obviously, Wagner's going to the Hall of Fame, but he's a veteran linebacker. He's a leader. He's a playmaker whose best days are behind him. And they agreed on a 1-year. What's that?
Still incredibly impactful player.
Well, and they agreed on a 1-year deal worth up to $9.5 million with $8 million guaranteed. Why couldn't the Niners work out that kind of a deal for Greenlaw? It doesn't have to be quite that much. How about 1 year at $8 million with $6 million guaranteed or something like that? But I mean, that's that 1 year kind of a deal.
First of all, any 1 year deal, it should all be guaranteed. I mean, who's going to take a 1 year guarantee with, caveats? I mean, like the whole point of you get a 1 year deal is you give it to me all now. I'll give you one last year now. And I mean,
$9.5 million of Wagner deal and 8's guaranteed. So I'm sure, they like anything else, Damon. I mean, it's like you're going to have incentives. If you're going to have incentives, you're going to have incentives, and they're probably going to be like games played. So, there you go. You have $8 million guaranteed, but if you play more than X number of games, you make 9.5. It's a way for the team to protect themselves against the guy taking $8 million guaranteed and just saying, I'm going to Devondre Campbell it. I don't want to go in. I don't want to play. I don't want to do this. So basically it's a 1 year, 9.5. It's probably more like a 1 year, $10 million deal. $8 million's guaranteed, and $2 million you're gonna have to show up for the games for. But
right,
I mean, it makes sense. But I mean, that's the kind of deal that the Niners ought to sign with Greenlaw, and I'd love to see him back. But the bottom line on this thing is that if everybody can look at the Niners and say, "Oh man, they should have traded Debo. They should have moved off of Ayuk." Well, should they then take the guys who are coming off good years now and trade them for picks because their market's hot? Should you entertain offers for Bosa and Kittle and some of your better players because you're going to have kind of a transition period here? I mean, it's kind of it's hard to know what the Niners' vision of their franchise is. Are they going to be, Tim has made it seem like, yeah, they want to save money on Debo and Ayuk and some of these guys, but that they're still going to go out and spend significant money in free agency. And it's not that they're trying to save money. They just want better decisions. I don't know. We're going to find out here. The 12th is coming up on Monday or on Wednesday. We'll find out for sure free agency opens, but Monday is the non-tampering period. So starting on Monday, we're going to hear huge names, huge decisions, guys who've been cut, guys who've been traded, guys who have been signed, and it won't come official until the 12th.
Yeah, lots about to happen, which, Jed York saber rattling about how tough he's about to be in negotiations. Again, it feels like there's some timing there that is not just coincidental. But I also think as the 49ers look at their offseason and what they need to do and wanting to be more cash out, financially responsible, I kind of reject that there's some big transition that's about to happen. I don't think this is a massive transition. I think things are pointed in you're a contender, behave as such direction. Sal is back in the room. They're going to have a special teams that isn't helping the other team win games for the first time in multiple years, you would hope. You're going to have the draft, the free agency, add-ons and additions that are going to make an already pretty goddamn good football team, hopefully even better, going up against the last place schedule that if you just look at it right now, there's a whole bunch of as much as the NFL could offer a cream puff to you waiting for the 49ers on this coming out schedule next season. I just...
Who's going to play wide receiver?
Well,
who's going to play on the defensive line? Who's going to play linebacker? Who's going to play in the secondary? I mean, they got a ton of problems.
The guys that they have just coming back healthy should solve some of these problems. They really should. The most interesting thing that I read this week.
Who's coming back healthy?
Well, hold on here.
To solve these problems.
Christian McCaffrey, number one. First name on top of that list, without a doubt. Number one with a bullet. Number two, his name's Trent Williams. That guy coming back and having a fully healthy year puts the 49ers in a much different position they were in last year.
Why is he going to be fully healthy? He's a year older.
Hey,
I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, these things are, yeah, if Trent Williams comes back and somehow is healthier next year, a year older than he was last year, a year younger, I mean, it's like, yeah, sure.
We spent all season deconstructing what's going wrong with the 49ers, the coach's approach, the offseason approach, Shanahan's in-game losing of the magical play calling that he distributed throughout the years, all the red zone problems, which we so thoroughly freaking discussed. I don't want to even talk about them anymore. What really did the 49ers in more than anything else last year? It's the thing that does in every single football team when it happens to them. Injuries. Injuries are what happened to the Niners more than Shanahan forgot how to coach or they forgot how to score touchdowns or and here's the numbers right here. Nicholas McGee of Niners Nation said that there was a study that looked at AGL, adjusted games lost data for the 2024 season, and the results pretty much show exactly where the 49ers were. AGL is a metric that measures aggregated impact of injuries on a team in any given season. Again, if you have a season-ending injury in week 16, it doesn't impact you nearly as much as a season-ending injury in week 2. If your backup guard is who's injured, that doesn't affect you and this score nearly as much as your starting wide receiver running back, okay? So right now, coming out of last year, where the Niners were down several starters for long periods of time, they finished 32nd in the NFL in AGL, adjusted games lost. Their score was 141.2. That's the worst in football. They had more impactful talent missing more time than any other team in the NFL. It's a huge change from 2023 when the 49ers had the fourth best AGL in the league at just 34.5. again, how those numbers are, it's like QBR rating. I couldn't tell you how they come up with this number, but
well, you're okay. So you're giving
41.2.
All right, great numbers. Here's the thing: older players get hurt. This just in, older players get hurt. So yeah, you're right. They've got a bunch of older players. They don't have enough good young players. Their old players got hurt, and their season went down the toilet. So injuries are the reason they're not good. No,
young players.
No, they're not. It wasn't injuries. There were other teams that were more injured. There were other teams that you think the Lions were pretty damn good. It didn't affect them. They lost Aiden Hutchinson, who was way better than any of the players the Niners lost. And as far as Christian McCaffrey goes, Christian McCaffrey didn't have anything done? Where was the surgery? Where was the rehab? He just has chronic Achilles tendonitis that came up from playing football and went away when he stopped playing football. And guess what? It's likely to return when he starts playing football. So this idea that this is just some one isolated situation and the Niners are just, they're right back in it. That's bullshit. That is bullshit.
Right,
their players are older, Damon, older. CMC is older. Bosa's older. Kittle's older. You get hurt when you're older. The problem, saying the Niners got lost this year because of injuries is not true at all. They lost this year because they bombed in 3 drafts in a row coming into this year. Okay. And when they had even a regular number of injuries, they fell apart because they're not deep enough, because they're not good enough. That's not because of injuries, just because of depth. Wait a minute. So
you're not wait. You can't argue both ways. You can't say that
I'm not
didn't affect it, but you're not deep enough. You don't worry about depth unless you're getting injured.
No, but the problem is not the injuries. Everybody got injured. More other teams were more injured.
No, this is literally
their other teams lost more man games. I don't know what your equation is, but the Niners did not lead the NFL in games missed because of injury. They did not.
But games missed is a silly way to look at it. That's like looking at total yardage, not expected wins or points added per game. They're
the oldest team in the game, Damon. That's why they got hurt. I mean,
right. But
and why are they the oldest team in the game? Because they missed on the first and second and third round for 3 years in a row. That's the problem. The problem isn't the injuries. Everybody has injuries. The problem is the next man up mentality only works if the next man up is good.
Right. But you can't, you can drag in bad decisions of the last 3 years, but just looking at the 49ers in the vacuum of last season, they missed more impactful snaps. For example, again here, the 49ers finished with the second most lost talent in the history of a backfield. Christian McCaffrey missed most of the season. Jordan Mason, not old, missed most of the season. Isaac Guerrero, not old. Larry missed significant chunks of the season. And Elijah Mitchell, who shouldn't be old, but playing like the treads off of his tires, he missed the entirety of the year. Injury.
These are backup players. These are backup players, man. There's not a single really good player in that mix. And by the way, these players, your point, though, is what? They're injured, and so we should not be sweating it because they're going to be healthy? No. The guys that were injured are gone. Debo was Ayuk was injured. He's probably not even going to be on the team this year, and he's not going to play as much this year probably as he played last year. McCaffrey, he's a year older. He's going to be healthier. So they had a bunch of guys who were injured. But it wasn't like it was an isolated thing. Oh, you know what? He broke his forearm and he'll be back. He's 23, he broke his forearm, but he'll be back this year. He's good as new. No, they had the kinds of injuries that are going to make you forever diminished. Do you really think that Brandon Ayuk is going to come back at the same level that he left? He tore the ACL, the MCL, and the meniscus on one play. He's going to be diminished. Or do we really believe that CMC, a year older, is going to be better coming off of 2 Achilles that he didn't have surgically repaired? I don't.
Your argument cut him? Is your argument get rid of him then?
My argument is your argument is that it's that last year was an isolated instance. And I'm saying no, it's not. I'm saying they're old and they're thin and they're going to be more hurt. It's not about last year. It's about older players getting hurt. Period.
2 years ago, they weren't exactly young as spring chickens. They didn't get hurt. They went to a Super Bowl.
They had Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey. Things end. Think you get old quick in the NFL. I mean, the 49ers had Willis and Bowman, and then 2 years later, poof, they're gone. Well, the same thing's happening here. The Niners had Ayuk, the Niners had Debo, the Niners had CMC. Poof, they're all gone. Debo's gone. Ayuk's on the verge of being gone, and CMC, who knows? I mean, he's got what? Why should we believe that CMC is better than his Achilles are going to be better this year with no surgery than they were last year?
Look,
and he's coming off a PCL as well. It's just,
I don't know if better's available. I don't know if he can have another offensive player of the year, but I'm going to tell you, I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey in his current situation than a lot of other running backs in this league, because he's Christian McCaffrey, and even half of Christian McCaffrey is still better than a lot of these guys. So yeah, I do think he's going to have a good year. And if he's not, then yeah, I mean, you might as well push the chips in and start talking about 2026. I mean, I'm just saying,
there's just, I mean, just because, you were hurt 2 years ago or you were hurt last year, this isn't baseball, man. Guys don't have a down year on the back end of their career and bounce back in this sport outside of kickers and quarterbacks. Everybody else, it's a physical sport. If you have a down year in your 30s, there's no Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. Oh, you get a second. No, you don't. Once you have a down year, you just keep getting worse and worse and worse. If you can name me an older player that had a down year and then bounce back with a big year, I don't remember it in football. So I'm not expecting a lot out of Ayuk, much out of CMC. Trent didn't play this year because they were out of it. I mean, he could have played down the stretch. He just decided not to play because they're like, hey, we don't need, why risk it? They're in the midst of saying goodbye, it sounds like, to Leonard Floyd, Yatir Gross-Matos, a bunch of guys on their front. It doesn't sound like they're bringing back Afanga, Banks, Greenlaw. They're all moving on. They're tightening the belt on the quarterback. They're in the midst of a reset, rebuild. All right, and so that's where they're at. So
remember how you feel about this. If they don't make the playoffs, don't be angry. Don't be angry if they don't make the playoffs. And if you really feel how you feel, then you're predicting that the 49ers are not going to be good next year.
No, I'm not. I'm countering your idea that it was a one isolated year and that their biggest issue, you just said, is the injuries. It's not. It's not the injuries.
I'm not
the
saying that.
biggest issue is nowhere close to the injuries.
This formula that was in a story. You call up Nicholas McGee and you yell at him about his numbers that he's sharing. I'm just sharing with you information. You can be as angry or as mad at the information as you want.
I'm not mad at anything. I'm just you're making it seem like the injuries were their downfall, and the injuries were not their downfall.
How about this? Christian McCaffrey gives the 49ers 17 healthy regular season games next year. Do you like their chances of being a playoff team?
Once again, do you want to bet on that? Do you want to bet on that? I mean, I don't want to bet on that.
They're betting on that.
Do you want to bet on Christian McCaffrey? So in a super physical sport, if all their players are healthy, will they be better? Well, yeah, they'll be better. But that's not the issue. The issue is that they have holes everywhere on this roster right now. They don't have a backup quarterback. They don't have a really good running back behind McCaffrey because Garendo is not a great running back, and J.P. Mason, I think, is probably going to be traded. As far as receivers, their receivers are not good. Their offensive line is subpar. Their defensive line is absolutely a ridiculous shell of what it used to be. Their linebacking core is decrepit and old. Their secondary has some good young players and still needs help. They're not going anywhere, man. This is not a good football team right now. They are not one player away. Yelling and screaming that they should sign old, banged up guys is not the solution. It's just not. I mean, just because people know those names doesn't mean those are the answers. So all I would say is, get ready for probably a two-year, project of rebuilding. But it's not like they can no longer do what they've done, which is, hey man, just get healthier and run it back. No. You're there's too many holes. They're no longer there. They're no longer in that. Hey, if they just get, no, they're not. They got 16 holes.
I think a good draft and a couple of smart free agent decisions against the last place schedule, Robert Saleh's return, and a coaching staff that I believe in. I think they're a playoff team next year, Larry. I don't think they're nearly as far away as you do. And I think an added.
When did I say they weren't a playoff team? I just said they're going through. We haven't even had the draft or free agency. Right now, they're not. To look at last year and to say that last year was about injuries, that's missing the boat. It's not about injuries. It looks like it was about injuries. Why? Because guys that could have come back didn't come back. And so it looks like, oh, yeah, well, you missed this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy. You weren't winning games with any of these guys. You didn't win hardly any games last year. The best win you had was a mediocre win at home over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who rolled in with no Godwin and no Evans. So you're not on the verge of anything. You're not close. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying making a statement they're not going to the playoffs. Nobody would make that statement right now. They're going to hopefully add 25 new players to a 53-man roster. The point is, though, it's not like like the Eagles ran it back this year. They got a couple guys in the draft, a couple free agents, but they had players. They just had other problems. They had bad coordinators. They had players. The Niners are not the Eagles. They do not have the depth on the offensive line. They do not have the depth on the defensive line.
An injury to the 49ers, when they're down a starter, makes them more vulnerable than other teams that didn't blow years upon years of early round draft picks. I think that the argument that injuries affected the year is so undeniably obvious that I'm really surprised that you're going in the other direction.
Well, I didn't say it didn't impact the year. You're making it seem like if they just get, you just said it. If they just get healthy, they're back. And I think that's preposterous. It's not about health at this point.
It's getting healthy, remaining healthy with the picks that you make. I mean, that's
with the picks that you make. I mean,
a great draft and a great free agency this year, and then all of a sudden 6 guys get hurt in week 1. You're in a lot of trouble, no matter how good your draft was. You're in a lot. Injuries do matter. Injuries really do matter. And again, not a number that I produced, a number that I'm sharing with you. The 49ers, in terms of impactful injuries, measured first in the NFL, or I should say last. They were the 32nd most healthy team out of 32 teams when it comes to who are you missing? How long have you missed them? How good is that player? What do they do for you? So, I mean, I think that is.
I mean, go ahead and name these players that were hurt that are gonna come back and play
Purdy.
Great. He missed 1 game.
2.
He played the whole year. 2 games is not being hurt. That's everybody's going to miss a game or 2. Right. Give me this great list of players that got hurt last year, but aren't diminished and are going to be better this year. Go ahead.
Okay, so that doesn't exist. I can't create a false reality that doesn't.
Well, there we go.
But here's the thing.
Point.
I'm talking about what just happened. You're asking me to predict.
Older players get hurt, Damon. Older players get hurt.
Players can also get hurt too, Larry. There is no guarantee.
I know, but older players are more likely to get hurt. They have a lot of older players, thus they're hurt. I mean, once again, Damon, we can play this game all day and every day. We can move this thing around. John Lynch just stated, hey, we got a really old team. We need to get younger. You're saying their problem is injuries. The result of age is injuries. That's not the problem. That's the result of the problem. The problem is they're not bringing in enough good young players. That's the problem. The age and the injuries are just the result of when you don't bring in good enough young players, you have a bunch of nobodies. The Niners 2 years ago, at the beginning of this regime, they had 2 full defensive lines. They had guys off the bench that were coming in and playing incredible. They don't have any of those guys now. Now they don't even have a 4-man line of good players. They used to have 9 good defensive linemen. I mean, so it's not about like, oh man, an injury, because really there is. Name me the guy. I mean, outside of Dre Greenlaw is the one guy who you might be able to say is going to come back and be healthier. And even that, it's like he played 2 games. It's probably wishful thinking. It's not my job to sit here and tell you the Niners are going to be good. I'm not a Niner good content creator. This is we're going to be real here. What's that?
Okay, so what do you recommend? Are you trying to trade Christian McCaffrey today then? Are you trading Brock Purdy right now if you've got doubts about him? Are you trading Nick Bosa? Are you trading Trent Williams? Do you really want to play the let's strip it all down because there's no hope remaining? Move George Kittle today then. If you really believe
I think there's a really compelling argument to move everybody and anybody that would bring you draft picks, especially if you're in this rebuild mode. But you don't have to tear the whole thing down to the studs and start anew just because you're not there yet. But it's not. I mean, it's like, hey, you know what? I didn't. I'm unemployed. I don't have a job. I'm in this spot because my last job fired me. No, your last job fired you, put you unemployed, but you're in this. I can't get a job because you didn't get any education. So it's like sitting there and saying, well, the real problem is that we're injured. No, that's not the real problem. The Lions were more injured with better players. The real reason that you're at where you're at is because you have 3 cycles of drafting. You got nothing, and who you are is not who you draft today. It's who you drafted yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. And they didn't draft well, and that's where they're at.
And I would
the real issue here.
You don't draft well, injuries and their impact will be greater for you than the teams that do draft well. So again, I think you're kind of going around in circles where you're looking for the starting point of what went wrong. I'm not looking for the starting point. I'm just looking at last year. And last year, the 49ers lost more impactful snaps to healthy players that they depend on than any other team. If your argument is that doesn't matter, I kind of think that you've lost the plot a little. I'm not saying it's the only enemy in the room, but I think it is a massive, massive thing to say that what separates the Niners from having a pretty good year or a bad year is the same thing that separates a lot of teams from having a good or bad year. How healthy were you? And the answer for the 49ers, how healthy were you, was least in football. So there you go. I mean, I don't think we need to argue about it. I certainly think we should move on because we're just going around.
Once again, it's like, they weren't good. Okay, they weren't good. There's people like, hey, Larry, you're making the 49ers sound like they're a tire fire. They are a tire fire. They won 6 games.
Oh,
they are a tire fire. Get real. This is it. Brittany Osler. Larry, you're making it sound like the 49ers are a dumpster fire. They are a dumpster fire. Noel Carranza. The 6-12 49ers are crap. You fans are fucking delusional. Noel, thank you. Let's be real here. I'm all about real. We have success on this channel because we talk about the 49ers not from a fan perspective, from a real perspective. And the issue isn't the injuries. The issue is their horrible personnel.
Fanboy.
What's that?
Don't classify me as some fanboy, just pie in the sky wishing for things to be better.
You sound like that this morning because you're making it seem like it seems like, well, if they just get healthy.
You're angry at information.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not angry at anything. I'm just saying that you're making it. You just made a thing. You just made an argument. If they get healthy, they're going to be good. And I'm saying, no, that's not true. If they have a huge draft, they're going to be good. If they have a huge personnel injection of talent, they're going to be good. But they're not. If the 49ers get as healthy as they can be, they're still going to suck. They're not going to be a great team this year if they just get healthy. That's not going to be good enough.
I think we're close. I think they wake up as pretty guaranteed to go back to the playoffs as any team in football, just based on their schedule and what they've improved on.
But that's not their standard, Damon, going to the playoffs. Yeah, you're right. They have an easy schedule, and they're probably going to win 8 or 9 games and go to the playoffs. But the main thing is the main thing, which is you build teams through the draft. The best teams in the NFL are built through the draft. They need to build through the draft like everybody else. And they're so buried because they've drafted so poorly that they could have the greatest health. They don't have enough talent on their roster, even if they're healthy. That's the point. It's not about health. It's about health. It's about health and a monster draft class. So it's like if they have a monster draft class and they have 3 guys get healthy, are you going to come back and be like, hey, man, they have those 3 guys healthy? Well, and we're going to ignore the monster draft class.
All right,
the monster draft class is first, second, and third. The injuries, because in reality, Damon.
Let's just for a second, follow my logic. The 49ers have the single greatest draft of all time this year, and you know it before they've even played a game. But unfortunately, everybody in that draft class got hurt in training camp. Do injuries?
That isn't the single greatest draft class of all time. There's no such thing as the single greatest draft class of all time where nobody played.
Availability is the greatest ability. They had a staggering amount of unavailability last year. If they have a staggering amount of unavailability in this upcoming year, yeah, they're just as fucked this year as the last year. I don't care how good their draft was.
Well, I mean it's just a matter of this. What do you think's more important to them winning this year? I think it's having a monster draft class, and to me, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
As soon as the year starts, there is nothing that'll affect the season more than health.
But the old guys getting healthy, that's going to help a little, but it's not going to do a lot. I mean, it's just realistically. I mean, do you really believe, even if these guys are healthy? I mean, do you really believe that any football player over the age of 30 is getting better? No. So you're getting a worse version of Trent, a worse version of CMC, a worse version of all these guys. So there's that too. There's that too.
And trade it all. As soon as anyone gets past their 29th birthday, trade it all, Larry, if that's how you feel.
Why would you? I'm not advocating trading all these players. I'm just saying have realistic expectations, Damon. This idea that they're just going to get healthy and they'll be good is bullshit. And I'm pushing back because it's such bullshit that I think people look to us to sit there and be somewhat real about this. That's not real. The reality is they're not a Joey Bosa away. They're not.
I didn't say they were.
You've been making the argument that if they need to sign him, they got to sign him. They got to sign him by Wednesday. I
have triggered you like a Vietnam veteran.
No, I'm just saying that's not the key, man. That's not it. That is not going to get them there.
In an injury-based sport, health will always be the key. And last year, in an injury-based sport, they were more injured than anybody else. I think that had something to do with the 6-10 record. It's not the only 6 or whatever it was. It's not the only thing. It's not the only factor, but it is among the biggest. I really believe that. Had Christian McCaffrey not missed any of the year, I bet you that's good for 3 wins right there. But he did. So what are you going to do? We're just trying to retroactively try to explain what happened. The lost games due to injury doesn't mean, just don't even worry about this upcoming draft. Everyone's going to get healthy. I didn't make that argument. You sound like you're trying to make me having made that argument.
No, you basically said it. You said if they just get healthy with their schedule, they're going to run it back. And it's like, that's not it.
Going to be a playoff team next year by getting healthy with better coaching and a special teams that isn't sabotaging your chance to win week after week. I think those 3 things are absolutely arrows pointed in the right direction for a team that's looking for arrows to get pointed back in the right direction.
And I would disagree. And you have Aaron, you have to have a new left guard, Aaron Banks. That's not about healthy. That's about a new left guard.
All right. I think you get
Jake
that.
Brendel wasn't very good last year, Damon. He's healthy. So what's the problem? He's healthy, but he's not very good. So there's another guy that it's not about Jake Brendel needs to get healthy. Jake Brendel's healthy. So if he's healthy, then why is he ranked 42nd among centers? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't have played the guy either.
Colt McKivitz was healthy. Ricky Pearsall played 4 games in a row. He was healthy. He didn't catch a single pass in those 4 games. Jacob Cowing was healthy. He only had like 4 catches all year.
Let him even get out on the field.
Kittle was healthy all year. What are the odds that happens next year, a year older? I'm just saying it's not about the injuries, dude. It's about they've missed so much.
All right.
That they have no talent. They have no talent. Talent wins, dude. It's pro sports. You got to have talent. That's the biggest issue. Their lack of talent is their biggest issue. You could say it's injuries, but the guys that you're hoping are going to be back are all on the wrong side of 30 with the kinds of injuries that really don't make you better. I mean, CMC's injury, it's not the kind of injury that makes you better. Ayuk's injury is not the kind of injury that you're like, it doesn't matter. It was just he just broke his clavicle. No, that heals, right? That's not what Ayuk has. So there you go. I mean, you've got injury. I love Greenlaw. Love him. Want him back. But you know what? I think his injuries are probably
next year when an important 49er gets hurt. Don't say a fucking word about it, Larry. Don't say a word.
Why?
You just said injuries don't matter. It's going to affect this team at all.
Damon, you said injuries, if they get healthy, they're back. And I'm saying that's bullshit. They're not back. You on the other day were advocating that they need to get Joey Bosa, who's old, broken down, and they need to get him by Wednesday, is what you said. No, wait a second. I mean, that to me is that's what you need to get. You need to get an old defensive end who's broken down and hasn't had double-digit sacks in 4 years. That is so urgent that they have to get it done by Wednesday?
No, that's what I'm saying. That Joey Bosa needs to make the contract so easy to agree to that the 49ers can't say no. At that price, of course we'll add you, Joey. We're still drafting edge. We're still drafting D-line in this upcoming draft. Joey Bosa is a piece. And if you can put that piece on your team, that piece comes with, some deals that you're making with the devil. You might get the very best out of him because he's excited to play with his brother and he's feeling good and he's finally healthy. Or it's the guy who's missed 23 games over the last 3 years and hasn't had double-digit sacks since 2021. That's why it's got to be a not hometown discount. It's got to be I want to be with my brother level discount. If the price is right, Joey Bosa is an easy ad. If the price is right, and if the price is wrong, you don't add him.
I mean, it's a great story. It would be a great story, but I don't think it's anything more than that. And also, I just don't think. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the Schefter report from last week was what? It was the 49ers are willing to listen to trades for just about anyone with their current cap situation. If a team's willing to take on Brandon Ayuk's contract, the Niners would definitely listen. So they're shopping just about anyone looking for cap room, but then they're going to turn around and add this older player. It's a great name, and I understand why people are excited about the idea, and I'm sure Cheryl Bosa would be excited to go to one football game and follow one team instead of two teams. But
by the way, who gets to wear 97? Right?
Nick will wear 97 for sure.
Absolutely. It's his team. Yeah. You're joining my team, buddy, not the other way around. Can we move on to Brock's deal, which I honestly don't think that it shouldn't be that hard to figure out if you're the 49ers. What they came publicly this week saying they're opening with 45. Well, you got to know that the other team's going to come back at 55, and it feels like 50 is sitting right there in the middle, and I think that that's probably going to be the number. Now, the question is, are the 49ers going to try to keep it short and front load it, or are they going to try to give them like a full-bore 5-year deal with an out after 3 where they can backload it? It's just how they move the money around a contract that I think, what's weird? I think that Max Crosby's new contract is a little bit of a template for Brock Purdy, because what Crosby just got the biggest non-quarterback contract of all time. And that's what the 49ers would kind of like to give Brock. They're like, we want you to be paid like a starting quarterback, but we don't want you to reset the market here. Crosby has a $106.5 million deal with 91 guaranteed. like, to me, a 3-year 150, 100 guaranteed with maybe some performance bonuses that push it to 160, 170 is, I think that's what Brock is looking at over the first 3 years of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what how the structure of that deal's coming down, but you know, it's Sonny. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, if the Niners are going to come in at 45, why are we assuming Brock's agent's at 55? He might be at 65. I mean,
so if
he
we're
might be
$20 million apart, then we're not looking at the same picture, right? So, I mean, that would be, okay, Jed York really does want to go to DEFCON 1 and go to war with every negotiation.
Well, I mean, I mean, it's hard to say. This is why this is so drama filled, because it's hard to say what this player is worth. There's a lot of people that don't want to pay him big money. It sounds like the Niners don't want to pay him big money. They've stated he's their guy, but they don't want to pay him. I mean, if you say you don't want to pay him at the top of the scale, I don't think there's anybody who would say, "Oh, that's crazy." But if you say you don't want to pay Brock Purdy Tua Tagovailoa money, then you better have a pretty compelling argument, because Tua Tagovailoa has never gone to a Super Bowl. Tua Tagovailoa doesn't have Brock Purdy's playoff record. So,
or concussion concerns.
Yeah, I mean, so if Tua's making 53 or 55 or whatever that is, it's like, that seems to me where Brock's going to be. I mean, to me, this seems like they better get it done. I would imagine, like all free agent quarterbacks, their agents, it seems like, or it's, Lund said something the other day. He's like, well, it's not necessarily about who's the best. It's about who's the latest. So he thinks that this is all about, the guy who gets paid the most recent always makes the most, but it doesn't have to be that way. I just think that ultimately Brock is a good quarterback. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the league. Should he set the new record for the league? No, I would say no. Others would argue that the precedent's already been set, and the answer is yes. Either way, the most that Brock's agent Kyle Strongen could be asking for, the most, is $65 million. The least is what the Niners have just offered, which is $45 million. So somewhere in there, in that $20 million, is the deal. And I think it's going to be right in the middle. I think it's going to be 55, 56 million. I said that for a long time.
Yeah. What's the largest performance bonus ever given to a player for, like, if you win the Super Bowl, you get X? Because I would give Brock this: if you win the Super Bowl, you get a $5 million performance bonus, because that's what we're here for. You want to get paid? Go win the Super Bowl, kid. In the meantime, you got a lot of really good, never have to worry about money in this deal. You want the cherry on top? Go win the Super Bowl.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm going to play the agent now. I'll play Kyle Strongen, the agent. Where's Dak Prescott's Super Bowl? Where's Trevor Lawrence's Super Bowl? Where's Justin Herbert's Super Bowl? Where's basically everybody on the list that's not named Jalen Hurts' Super Bowl? Brock's done. If we're really, I would, if I was his agent and you were Prague and you threw that out, I'd be like, you know what? That is awesome. I agree. Performance and results and wins should have a direct impact in what my client makes. And let's compare my clients winning to the guys who make between $50 and $60 million and what winning they've done. And then let's pay my guy based on that. And if that were the barometer, then you'd be paying Brock Purdy north of 60 million, and maybe quite a bit north of 60 million.
Oh yeah.
Because he's accomplished more than them.
It's a fascinating arbitration case to argue, no matter which side of the table you're sitting on, right? Like, I could do a hell of a job arguing the Niners case. I could do a hell of a job arguing Brock Purdy's case, which means they both have legitimate, I think, cases over what you're worth. I mean, if you're the 49ers, you say, well, what do all of those players have in common? They're on poorly run franchises that make such bad decisions. That's kind of what defines them. So there's that in play. There's also all of those guys that you just mentioned were like top 15 picks in the league. Now, I know it's not about starting point. It's where you are now, but it also is about starting point. It is. When you're a first-round draft pick, you're coming in at a price point that your extension has to build off of. You were the last pick in the draft. You just played for a song. We really appreciate that, but that doesn't mean you go right to the front of the order. I mean, I just don't think it's that difficult. I don't think it should be that difficult, because I do think you've got motivated parties to get a deal done, and I think you've got a well-intended Brock Purdy who doesn't want to ruin his team's chances to compete because of the number that's now attached to him. I also don't think he's like a money is my Jesus greedy type of guy. That's why you go and have an agent, by the way, because you can have the agent wear the black cape in the negotiations. I also think if you're the agent, you're saying to yourself, man, my client is just in a great situation here in San Francisco. He likes it. They like him. We don't want him to go anywhere. Again, if Jed really wants to be the fucking bad guy, just tell him you're coming back on what, the $5 million that you got left on your contract right here and now, and then we're going to franchise tag you. You're going to get the old T. Higgins route.
Which adds to $97 million over 3 years. So you're basically paying the guy $30 million a year. So you could, if there are people out there that are like, hey, man, don't pay him this, pay him $30 million a year. Great. Well, then you just franchise, as Damon said, let him play out the last year at 5.1. Then you franchise him in year one for 41. You franchise him in year two for 51. And then you control he really has no say in what he makes for 3 years if you want to do this.
If you give him like the big, though, 5-6 year contract, it actually gives the team a little bit more wiggle room in the contract, because they can move money around that 5-year period. And at the end of it, just based on what we know now, what quarterbacks are going for, the increases in salary cap that are going up massively year over year now, the number that everyone gets huge sticker shock from today in year 5 of Brock's deal is probably a middle of the pack quarterback contract, right? A quarterback making $50 million 5 years from now in the year 2030 is a Honda Civic, right? I mean, that's going to be standard across all starting quarterbacks in this league will be making $50 million a year, probably in the next 5 to 10 years. It's just going to be a $50 million position.
I mean, they're clearly hedging. They're clearly hedging on this player. So they're hedging. I mean, some people could say, well, it's just a negotiation. This is the beginning. This is how it works. Okay, that's fine. But they're clearly either uncomfortable with his value or trying to redefine the value or just trying to play super hardball. And we're going to find out, because here's the bottom line on this thing. Brock Purdy, he has a contract. He's going to want to show up to the OTAs. He's going to want to show up and be there practicing. Well, what if he doesn't have a contract? At one point, I as much as this looks like an easy deal, it's like, hey, the top of the pay is $65 million. The Niners are offering 45. How about, meet in the middle, 55, boom, there you go. Should be easy enough. But they're so clearly this offseason bent on the money that I think all bets are off, man. All bets are off as far as how they're going to handle this, how they're going to play this, how does Brock show up? I think he probably does, but it's their bad vibes. I mean, it's just, this could go in so many directions. What I would love to know is because you can't play super hardball without having a plan B. I'd love to know what their plan B is. What is plan B? Is it Kirk Cousins? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Is it Justin Fields? Is it Zach Wilson? Is it Mac Jones? Daniel Jones? I mean,
should have been playing Tanner Mordecai in those last couple throwaway weeks last year, so you at least know what you got in him. I think they really pissed away the last couple of weeks of last season too. They didn't explore their depth of their team at all. Where was fucking Tariq Owens? Why didn't we get to see him at the end of the year?
Yeah, well, I mean, now we're being told that, they don't need a receiver. They like Tariq Owens. Well, we're
great.
that is going to be, interesting. Take a guy who barely played high school, didn't really do much in college, just because he's athletic, run him through some drills and be like, hey, this is an NFL receiver. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, that would be the ultimate ultimate statement of genes mean everything, because this guy had no real high school or college to speak of, production wise, and yet, if he makes it as an NFL player, that would be something. That would be something.
I mean, the Bay Area's done pretty well betting on the sons of former Hall of Famers, but it's hard to keep lightning striking over and over and over and over again. We'll see. We'll see. Larry, lots of supers. Let's hop into them.
Lots of supers today. We got this one. And by the way, Jonathan Allen was released today by the Commanders. He was a guy that the Commanders had offered the 49ers in the Debo trade, and the Niners didn't want him at that point because they wanted to save the money more than they wanted the good defensive lineman. Now that he's free, we'll see if the Niners make a play for him. Should be interesting. All right, let's go to the supers. Fuji, happy birthday, Kevin. Larry, take him to the House of Prime Rib or even Fleming's in Santa Clara. Good steakhouses for sure. Fuji Simeon, I like 1 year, $8 million for Bosa, and he may like it as it gets him to 10 years of service and he can retire from the NFL if that's what he wants to do. Well, there's no question that 10-year thing is huge for your fully vested, 401k and all the retirement plan stuff that the NFL has. If you can get to the 10th year as a player, you're like fully vested at the highest rate. And so, yeah, a lot of guys, will gut out that 10th year. It's a big deal. I know it's a big deal for players and for coaches. We got this one from Moonman. Did Jed get a little Eddie in him, more ruthless? Maybe Jed was like, hey, look, I don't like. I heard some of the reports like Kawakami saying, well, Jed's fine spending money as long as they're winning Super Bowls or contending for Super Bowls. But they win. If you win six games, it's like it's a new world order. And it's like, I understand the desire to hold your, regime's feet to the fire and have high standards and this and that. But I got to be honest, I'm a little concerned. This is a family that before Shanahan and Lynch, they spent a decade walking around, post Jim Harbaugh, just like, what the hell, Chip Kelly and, and before Jim Harbaugh, they, Singletary and Nolan and Erickson and the Yorks do not have a very good track record of hiring coaches. And is Jed and his family, are they good owners? Well, they're good owners when they're winning, but they've had, some great runs of winning, but they've also been some of the reasons that they didn't win. I mean, getting rid of Jim Harbaugh in a personal dispute is right there at the top of the list. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'd love to say, oh, you know what? Parag being involved with the negotiations is a positive. It's a positive only if your bottom line is you care about Jed's bottom line. I don't know if it's a positive as far as winning a Super Bowl. Well, Parag's never won a Super Bowl.
One of the things that I remember you prescribing, and I agreed to it, was, the 49ers need to make everybody a little less comfortable. Maybe that's what Jed's doing here. Maybe that's what Jed is doing. He's putting everybody on notice. Everybody is sort of re-auditioning for their role and their impact that they have in my decision-making right now in real time. So,
is it possible? Is it possible that there has been a huge shift that they just haven't told us about? Like for example, Damon, maybe they have fired Kyle Shanahan as a personnel guy and said that you're not involved in personnel.
Well, you at least don't have the final decision or final say on it anymore.
I mean, here's the thing. Why do I say that? In your most important off season, he doesn't go to the combine. It almost is like they said
he never goes.
No, I know he hasn't gone, but he hasn't gone most of the time because they've been long playoff runs and he's got very little vacation time. And it's like, you go to the Super Bowl, it's like the next week, a couple weeks later, it's Mobile. A week after that, it's the combine. So it almost was like, hey, you know what? I'll watch it at home and I'm getting a break and we're really good. But maybe in a year where everybody's like, man, shouldn't he be at the combine? Maybe he didn't go to the combine because he's not really part of the decision-making brain trust, with the draft. I don't know. They have traded up for an awful lot of offensive players. Dante Pettis, CJ Beathard, Jalen Hurd, Trey Sermon, and others Joe Williams, guys that should have been Shanahan kind of picks that bombed. And I wonder if they just said, hey, you know what, John, we don't trust you to do the negotiations. We're going to have Parag do it. You focus on the draft. Kyle, we don't want you involved in personnel. We want you just coaching the team. You just focus on that. I mean, they could have had a major, shakeup in their team on the heels of 6 wins that just never, they don't have to announce it to us. They don't have to have a press conference and say, hey, we're moving everybody's changing their hat. No, they don't have to do that. I get the feeling that maybe there's been a dramatic shift, and Parag is now the negotiator, John's now the GM, and Kyle's now the coach. And as opposed to Kyle's the overseer of everything, John's, and Parag's just there running leads and doing a few things here or there.
Hey, taking a little something off the guy's plate, I think will do him a lot of good. I really do. I think Shanahan has spread himself too thin. I'd rather Shanahan concentrate on special teams getting better than trying to figure out which 6th rounder they need to take.
Yeah, let somebody else do that. It's a different skill set. Let somebody else do it. Joseph Ehrenberg, trade or moving on from Brock should mean trade every old player and restart everywhere. Coaches and GM included, no more chances or bites at the apple. Trade or moving on from Brock. Well, I don't think they're trading or moving on from Brock, but if they did, I don't know. To me, he's a young player, so he's a young player. So I mean, I don't think he's going to be traded. But it does make you wonder if you don't have Debo, and you know that for sure. And now Lynch is talking about Ayuk when asked about him, instead of saying he's here, he's not going anywhere, which is what you would expect a guy who signed a receiver a year ago to a 4-year, $120 million deal. When he gets asked the next year about his trade rumors, the answer is, yeah, hey, we just signed him. He's our guy. He's going to be here for a long time. And, obviously it's tough through this injury, but we're going to see what we can do and get through it. Nope, didn't say any of that. He said, yeah, we're the number 2 cash spending team. We can't continue this, and there will be an upside of this. We need to get younger. Well, what's this? And I read this as there's going to be an upside of the fact that we're about to trade Brandon Ayuk for pennies on the dollar. I think they're caring more about Jed's money than people even realize. I think they are going to wind up moving Ayuk. I don't think it's going to be a good deal. And I think there'll be some Niner fans that are like, what is going on?
It's the old adage, the best time to get out of what you think is a bad investment is today, because it only costs more in the future.
Right. And I think it's people say, well, what are they going to save? They're going to save a good chunk of money of that 120 if they can get out from underneath it. Now, the question is there a team willing to take on the player for any price? And I guess the question would be this. Let's just say New England, who wanted a big-time receiver, will take on Ayuk. What do you think the Niners would get in return? I mean, we know Debo went for a fifth. What's Ayuk? Oh, if the Patriots are willing to take on Ayuk's contract, kind of like the way the Commanders were, would you, and take that money off of? If the Niners get a financial break and the whatever team is willing to take Ayuk's contract, what's the price tag for him? It's got to be
probably a 5th, 6th rounder and financial relief. That's what you're being offered. That's it.
I think it might be higher than that, but that might be wishful thinking on my part. I think it's gonna be low.
Let's go. I got to get going here soon, Larry. So let's kind of get
Ehrenberg. They will be fully healthy for about 4 games.
Oh, well, it's all downhill after that.
Claude Eddie Arcades. He says, I'm not sold on the Bosa brothers reunion. Joey is cooked. Use that money to get Dre Greenlaw back, accumulate more draft capital, and invest in the trenches. Too many good D linemen and O linemen in this draft. Trust your scouts. Totally agree with that. L. Kurtz, we are in rebuild. Just admit it, guys. We're in a rebuild.
I think it's a reload, not a rebuild.
Fuji Simeon,
semantics.
I don't understand why Browns don't want to trade Garrett. Just start the rebuild already. Just curious what Trey Hendrickson trade fetches. My guess is Hendrickson's going to fetch, he's probably worth a 3rd-round pick, but he's probably going to fetch a 4th or a 5th. That would be my guess. And as far as Garrett, I think they're just having that stance so they can, they're going to wait till the 11th hour and then probably trade him. Ernberg says over under on 0.5 blown Achilles CMC. What do you got? You got to go over.
Oh, take that under. Your season ends if the over hits, so take the under.
I mean, he's got potentially 2 blowns, and the over-under's at half, so one will get it done. Grant says, Damon, you are way off. Larry is 100% correct. Well, that's the advantage of having the channel. L. Kurtz, the problem is they can't draft good in the 1st round. That is a major problem. And it better not be a problem, or they probably, all the rest of this talk is all for naught. Fuji Simeon, Larry, Damon, if you bet the loser should wear a Mark Davis hairstyle wig and hairpiece for a day. Haha, Xavier Leggett shared recipe for cooking raccoon.
I don't even think my hair would allow me to pull off the Mark Davis. Neither would Larry's. I mean, you got to just have a special dome to begin with to even like pull that off, right? I mean,
it's called the Caesar. It's called the Caesar haircut. You have to have kind of straight hair and comb it down in front.
That's not a Caesar. That's a straight up bowl cut, man.
Well, I'm sure he said, "Can I have the Caesar?" And they brought him the salad. He said, no, the haircut. And then they didn't know what to do. Claudaddy says CMC Trent are question marks. Nick Bosa has regressed significantly. I've listened to offers for Bosa, CMC, and Kittle if the draft compensation is right. Imagine gathering 18 to 20 picks and hitting on just 40% of them. I mean, they're in a tough spot because you don't want to tear the whole thing down to the studs, but at the same time, you do want to trade all non-essential players for picks so you can rebuild as fast as possible. Fuji Simeon says here, I thought it was going to be a chill, relaxing Lent Friday wake-up show. Haha, love the show. You two, any trade requests in the NFL you find interesting?
How about the fact that I made the most interesting thing happening today is, did you see that Jimmy Haslam has basically told Myles Garrett, no, we're not going to have a meeting? Myles Garrett asked to talk to the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and the owner said, nah, you don't get access to me. You go talk to your general manager. So Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns are done with each other, it feels like.
So they will meet with, serial weirdo Deshaun Watson. They won't meet with the best defensive player in football. Okay, just keeping track of that one. And by the way, happy Lent to everybody. I guess Palm Sunday's coming up on Sunday. Jeb says, glad you're all arguing. It's refreshing, not like the other butt buddy content creators who are all just clickbait. Lance fangirls.
Thank you.
There you go. We'll fight any day. Doc Holliday, greetings, Damon and Larry. Hey, Larry, in 2011, Adrian Peterson had an ACL injury, came back the next year, nearly broke the single-season rushing record. Just saying. Yep. There you go. Now add a MCL and a meniscus.
Oh, no, he had the whole thing. I mean, Adrian Peterson's entire knee came apart. That was a full rebuild, and he came back.
Valen, I don't think he tore the meniscus. Valen says everyone got hurt in 2020. Were we a dumpster fire then? Next year we made the championship with everyone healthy. If it weren't for special teams, we start 7-2 last year, 8-2 if Bosa doesn't get hurt. I'll just disagree. I mean, granted, last year's it's all. Here's the other thing too. It's like these records are moving. They're moving targets. Why? Because the schedule changes. So yeah, I mean, this year. The next year's schedule is way easier than this year's schedule, in short. I'm your Poppy Chulo says Washington just released Jonathan Allen, which is the Niners show interest. I think the Niners should show some interest in Jonathan Allen, just simply because they should show interest in any and all defensive linemen, period, because you need 10 good ones, and they have like 3. What do you got? You got Bosa, you got Evan Anderson, and you got maybe Malik Collins. It sounds like Gross Matos and Floyd are going to be cap casualties. The other guys are young. inexperienced or hurt in some cases.
I mean, is Floyd even making enough money to be a cap casualty?
I think they backloaded a 2-year deal, and so he probably has a bigger number this year, and they could save a few bucks. I mean, they're not going to save tons, but they can save a few bucks. Fuji, Simi, and Larry, any takeaways from Giants spring training? Yeah, Luis Matos looked really, really good. I asked the people down at because there weren't as many people at the games. In all, I went to
why.
Well, I mean, but there wasn't just the Giants Park. I was in the Padres Park. I was at the Giants Park, and then at the Diamondbacks Park. I mean, decent crowds, just not huge crowds. And somebody said, yeah, young people have spent all their are all capped out on their credit cards, so they can't spend out here. That's what
I remember when spring training was significantly less than Major League Baseball. For some reason, it's become the exact same price point. Which is ridiculous.
Do you want to know? I mean, I hate talking about money and prices, but what do you think? Giants, Diamondbacks, sitting on the lawn in Salt River. What do you think that would go for?
$50.
What do you think it should? What do you think it should go for? It's $50 a ticket.
You should be paying $15 for lawn seats at a spring training game.
50.
Yeah, 50. I guessed it. $50 a ticket. It's fucking highway robbery.
I mean, I'll pay it, but I mean, I can understand if you're like a sophomore at ASU and you just, you want to get some sun and you used to go out there now. No, you can't afford it. Fuji Simeon says, I hope ESPN doesn't ruin the NBA and TNT show with interference like placing Kendrick Perkins on the show. What does Kendrick Perkins contribute? Kendrick Perkins.
He contributes whatever the producer tells him. Say this so we can get a debate going, you idiot.
He's just, to me, it's like a bad Shaq knockoff. I'm your Poppy Chulo says, thoughts on Abdul Carter possibly falling down the draft boards due to the report of a stress fracture in his foot. Reports indicated that he sought medical opinions on a possible foot surgery. Well, it's interesting, too. What makes it even more interesting is that this Ayuk to New England talk, one of the specifics that did come out. Now, granted, we're not getting it from Schefter, so who knows how credible any of these reports are. But one of the reports from one of the Patriots insiders is that a deal that involves Ayuk going to New England could involve the flip-flopping of draft choices. So if that were the case and it were in the first round, the Pats pick 4th and the Niners pick 11th, the Pats may be interested in this, Damon. Why? Because there's a lot of talk they want Will Campbell, and after Will Campbell tested with shorter arms, there's a lot of belief that he may fall from top 5 to top 15, and they may want to trade back and get him at 11. But it also is interesting from the Niner perspective.
My crush isn't going to be there. Membu's going before 11 now. Fuck.
Maybe. A lot of people say he might go 4. But, here's the bottom line. If you're the Niners, would you trade Ayuk in the 11th pick if you could get to 4, and then at 4 you could take either Abdul Carter with his stress fracture or Mason Graham? That would be interesting. I mean, I love Abdul Carter, but
I think it was Chase Sr. who said Abdul Carter's stress fracture means he falls to the Eagles. Kaboom.
32. Oh, wouldn't that be something? Thomas Selman, love the show, guys. Traveling from Georgia to San Francisco with my wife this spring. Any bar recommendations?
In San Francisco? Oh my God, go to the Dublin West Portal.
Hopefully we get Brock paid by free agency so we can focus on free agents in the draft. I think he takes $52 million. Bar recommendations.
Look, I'm a big Monahan's guy down in the marina. It's just a great local bar. Let's see, you want to bring your wife, bring her to the water bar, and you get the Embarcadero. You get to look right at the Bay Bridge. That's a pretty place to get a nice cocktail, nice in there. Go to water bar.
I would say, you know what I would say, and this is maybe a little foofy, but go to the water bar. This would be my plan for you. Go to the water bar for like breakfast and Bloody Marys or something like that. It's right there on the water. Then you walk about 100 yards down to the ferry building, jump a ferry, get over to Marin County, go sit on the patio at Sam's in Marin, and have a couple cocktails. You'll love it. The atmosphere is amazing. And then you'll get that bay cruise. You'll get the water bar. You'll get a little Embarcadero. You'll get a Marin. Let's just say this: when you're walking along the bay in the San Francisco, you're gonna be like, man, it's a little cold. when you get out to Marin, you're gonna be like, hey,
Right.
it's nice.
Somebody turned the heat up by about 15 degrees.
Yeah, it's warm. It's nice out here. Mason Davis says, could Ayuk fetch pick 83 in Freiermuth from the Steelers?
No.
I would say no. I would say it's probably an either or situation there. Ben Diesel says, I'd entertain the idea of trading CMC for some depth and draft capital. Wow.
You better be in love with Garendo if you do that.
Oh man, yeah. I'm hoping for CMC, but I gotta be honest. I'm very nervous about him with a recurrence. I think it's almost a fait accompli. Maybe I'm wrong. Barry Ford says, great show, guys. Love the passion. Drop this in the jar for
Thank
a
you,
brother.
Barry.
Thank you, Barry. That is going to do it for us on this Friday. Beautiful weather around the Bay Area. What do you got going with the boys today? You taking them to some park after school? What's on the docket?
It's just gonna be a normal Friday night. Nothing out of the ordinary. Big weekend though of flag football. Lots going on over the weekend. Jack had to play through his first flag football game with really bad weather. It was like cold and wet and rainy. And he didn't walk off the field complaining not once. I'm like, there you go. That's what I need. I need a kid who's not afraid of the rain. So I was happy to say that.
Gritty. Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, and that is because he's little. How old is he? How old is Jack?
5. Look, yeah. I'm posting a 3rd round grade on him. He's a day 2 guy.
Most 5-year-olds are fair weather. You know what I mean? There aren't too many that are out there that have the grit to sit there and endure. But man, it's tough. I one time went to a flag football game with a full on hat, umbrella, scarf, jacket. Wind was howling. It was like 42 degrees. And I'm sitting there going, they're running around in shorts. I'm like, you know what? Should they even be out here? Am I a bad parent for even having my kid out here? But what the hell? If I could stand there and watch it, then I guess it was okay for him to be playing.
Well, I got Nathan Hyatt coming in late here with a nice super sticker. Thank you very much for supporting the program, the programs. Like and subscribe to both the Krug Show and Damon Bruce Plus. And yeah, everybody have a great weekend, man. Everybody have a great weekend. And
look at Ernberg. He's got to go negative. Your kid's probably better in the rain than Brock. Great. That's awesome.
I'll say this, dude, the Bears are undefeated. They are 7-0, baby.
They're the Bears.
They're the Bears.
Are they college Bears, like Cal Bears, or
yes,
in the
every team in the in this flag football is a college team. It's Bears, Gators, Trojans, Longhorns, Bulldogs, Ducks, and who else is in there?
Yeah.
It's
Louisville, I think, or something like that. Yeah, my
Beavers.
Next Level does a nice job. They really do a nice job, and the kids love it. The kids love it. And if you think your kid wants to play football, or if your kid thinks he wants to play football, let them play a couple years of flag and understand the flow and the whole thing. And then if they love it and they need it, then you know what? Then tackle footballs for them. If it's a good entree. It's a good entree to football one way or another. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm going in 5 minutes with Chase Sr. on the Krug Show. Damon, are you going at 11 this morning?
Absolutely. Getting into Brock's numbers, what those might look like, and why it shouldn't be nearly as hard as everyone's making it out to be.
All right, check out Damon. Give a like and subscribe on both channels. If you're a Krug Show member, give Damon a like and a subscribe. If you're a Damon Bruce Plus member, give the Krug Show a like and subscribe. We're back on Monday for another edition of the show. Have a great Friday. Enjoy, hopefully, some outstanding weather.
Woo, free agency, Larry. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Monday morning, don't miss that stream, because you know the way this thing works. Wednesday is the beginning of free agency, as Damon just said. But I believe Monday's the 10th. Does that sound right? And the 10th is the opening of the 48-hour the window of negotiations, I believe. So what you're going to hear is Monday a lot of announcements right from when the show starts. We'll fire away with all kinds of, this guy's going there, this guy's going there, and who knows, maybe the Niners will have something big on Monday to report. So for Damon, I'm Larry. Have a great rest of your Friday, and until then, get out of here.